Hi all, I have a very exciting topical game to show you from Magnus Carlsen today. This is against Alireza Firouzja, so he's playing with the white pieces. He's one of the most up-and-coming players in the world of chess. This is a rapid time control. It's at the 2020 Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge. It's an online event. It is a 12-player online super tournament, so it takes place on Chess24. From May the 19th to June the 3rd, 2020, and it's the second event of the Magnus Carlsen Tour. It has a huge $150,000 prize fund with $45,000 for first place. So very, very high stakes. The time control here is 15 minutes each with a 10-second increment, and no draws are allowed. No draw offers, rather, are allowed before move 40. Let's have a look at this exciting game. Knight f3 from Alireza. We have d5. By the way, rumour has it Alireza may have been watching some of my YouTube videos when he was even younger than he is. You never know. He does play the King's Indian defence, so if he watches this video, please let me know in the comments. Okay, so g3, g6. We have c4 from Alireza. D takes. Magnus just takes it away from the centre, so he's clearing the responsibility of having a centre that could be targeted. And also, you'll notice this semi-open D file that's emerged. This can be quite interesting, this pressure here, and the bishop's going to be helpful for controlling D4. We have knight A3, bishop G7, knight takes C4, and in fact, there's knight C6 being played. This is piece play against D4. Not, you might think C5, but actually no, knight C6, just having piece pressure against that D4 square. Very, very interesting. And we have D3. This seems a little bit on the passive side for white already. E5, bishop D2, knight G, E7. And then we have this H4 move. This has been seen in over-the-board chess, this exact position. Bishop G2 has been played by the likes of Almazi, who was 2696 against Ramirez in Reykjavik 2017, and he went on to win a positional game playing with white. He didn't make use of H4. It was more, it went like this actually. Anyway, he went on to win there in 54 moves. So there's a positional treatment with Bishop G2. But this is very, very exciting, you know, going for a hack attack potentially. But the right reaction, I believe, is what is played at H6. So H5 can be answered now with G5. It sort of basically weakens this G4 square. It has a downside to it as well. Bishop C3. So for example, with H5, it's mostly harmless, it seems, after G5. For example, this position, black should be more than equal actually. Black should have a small edge. This bishop, as long as this bishop can be locked out, black seems to be doing very nicely there. So also yeah, if so H5 doesn't really seem to do too much. B4 might be an energetic idea, with the idea of accepting double pawns. This should get a position which is nearly okay for white. It's yeah, black's very close to being slightly better. So anyway, we have actually bishop C3, and now F6 is played. You might think this is a little bit odd, but it, you know, really does blunt that bishop. I guess if white, you know, tries for D4, it can be answered with E4 sometimes. We have bishop G2, bishop E6, both sides castle, rook C1. And now A5, and it gives the idea that actually maybe sometimes B5 is going to be dangerous. We have queen A4 actually stopping B5. So for example, if A3, B5 seems very interesting. And black can even gain space now with F5. And it looks as though black's playing for the win here. For example, this is just winning material. That'll be hopeless. And instead, if knight D4 is tolerated, if it's just tolerated with queen D1, black's getting a humongous position after C5 and F4, gaining space, and even can play soon for, you know, clamping down on the queen side taking out the strategic breaks that white has available. And this facilitates now g5. Black would have a really fantastic position, it seems. So yeah, it starts to look a little bit passive, a3. So yeah, queen a4 stops b5 for the moment, queen d7, rook fd1, rook fd8. Here, there's no trick with knight d4 trying to win a pawn, by the way, because after queen takes, if bishop takes, then that just loses a pawn. And if the trick is to try and play knight takes e2 check, the thing is king f1 wins material. So that's not really on the cards. That'll be hopeless for black. So rook fd8. We have a3, b6, e3, rook ab8. So looking for b5 sometimes. Now queen c2. Now very interesting move, a4. So if queen takes, there's b5. White's getting a little bit passive, it seems. Knight e1, b5, knight d2. We have bishop g4. Yeah, knight df3. That g4 square is just really nice for black as well here. It seems as though white's really quite defensive here. Bishop e6, queen b1, bishop b3. Well, the threat was bishop b3 here, skewering. So the queen dropped back. Bishop b3, knight c2, queen e6, knight d2. Bishop d5 now is played. You might think, hold on a sec, didn't that knight just block the pawn? This really, it's not worth taking off this pawn at all, it seems. This would be, in all the variations I've explored, this seems to do quite nicely. This serves white well after knight b4. This position, so exposing an attack on the rook and looking at c6 pressure. So for example, taking out b3, and this position, there's knight a6 forking here. And if we look at this again, if the rook dropped back, again it looks as though white's just winning material there. If the rook dropped to d7 and white in black didn't want to lose c6, this position is still, it looks as though knight a6 offers problems here for black. So yeah, this is a problematic scenario here after queen d3. If queen d7 is a big threat, that has to be parried. We get a situation which really c7 is going to drop, or it's going to be really uncomfortable. So yeah, it's best not to play this rook takes d3, it seems. So bishop d5 was played. And we have knight e4. If e4 here, in fact, it seems bishop a2 and then rook takes d3 under much better circumstances is actually very nice for black now. And there's no prospect of winning a piece here because the rook can take back holding a2. So it seems, yeah, knight e4 was played, not e4. And we have f5 pushing the knight to c5, queen f7, and now e4. This does have a downside of activating this f file. You can see that f2 is a potential soft spot for black to target potentially, so it's not an ideal move, and it also kind of weakens d4 positioning. It's a weakening move. Pawns don't go backwards, but yeah, white's in a really very passive position here. In fact, you can see that black's already threatening things like bishop takes and queen e5 check, picking up the knight, potentially. You can imagine that check and it's picking up the knight. So we have e4. Yeah, it's not a move which is that great here, it seems. After f takes, we have d takes. Now bishop a2, queen a1, and now bishop c4, depriving the use of the f1 square. So potentially more pressure on f2 with rook f8 could be annoying as well. Knight e3. In fact, here the d4 square is more the critical thing. Knight d4 is played. This looks like a really horrible move. Threatening sometimes if the knight wasn't covering knight b3, but immediately it's also threatening knight e2 check. That really does have to be addressed. This is getting dire for white now after this knight d4. yeah, it seems white has been really outplayed. The queen is not really that inspiring here on a1 either. It's been kind of x-rayed by this bishop at the moment. So it's not a great position. White played bishop takes d4. If the king moves to h2, then just, queen takes f2 is no problem. So bishop takes d4. This gives a nice pass pawn in the center. And in fact, here we have two connected pass pawns. This looks pretty menacing. And there's combined pressure potentially on b2. So yeah, white seems to be getting outplayed. This is a tactical shot, a tactical frat rather, fratting bishop e6. It's parried. If king h7, in fact knight e6 might actually be quite nice to take out this bishop. And if queen takes, then c4 drops. And if king takes, it justifies, believe it or not, the queen here, because b4 check means actually that white gets in this queen c3 and c4 is about to drop. So white would actually be better here. This is a way for white to be much better. So yeah, the response is rook d6, stopping any use of e6 though. Queen a2, and now I mean, it's really quite an interesting tactical position. We have actually rook b3 just offering an exchange sack for, these huge pass pawns are going to be monstrous if knight takes b3. A takes, it just looks like an absolutely monstrous position. So white actually took the a4 pawn here, but d3, and this looks really dangerous for black having bishop d4 now. Just looking at f2, if nothing else. It's a really, really dangerous position. The knight's kind of paralyzed a bit as well, it seems, because of b2 concerns sometimes, but if it wasn't for c4, it's a really difficult position, and white kind of made things worse, it seems. It's difficult to suggest actually what white does here. White played this, and it falls into bishop d4, hitting the knight on f2. Knight takes b3, but white's king position is destroyed now. Magnus plays queen takes f2 check, and doesn't recapture here, but instead queen takes g3. This is very, very dangerous for white's king safety. Indeed. Rook d2 is played. If bishop g2, then queen takes h4 is mating, or bishop f1 is immediately checkmate with queen g1. So it's a very, very tricky position. One of the most phenomenally instructive points about this game, from my point of view, is this position. Alireza Firouzja played rook d2 here, and the critical question is, isn't this like the diagonal of death? Doesn't white want to just take on d4, clear out the diagonal of death? Well, the thing is, if knight takes d4, in fact, black can take here, check, yes, and then play rook takes d4, and you might think, isn't this a little bit too slow because of rook takes c4? And why I find this instructive is, you can imagine, just in theory, that this is a pin situation, because these are arranged like for a pin, and you can sort of work your way backwards. If you realize this is a pin situation, maybe Magnus did some super reverse, back from this pattern, and he sees this pattern, because really there's a forced win for black based on this situation here. Because otherwise, this is getting quite dangerous to open and discover check. But black has check, can take out h4 if he wants. The critical thing is to get this check in again, and then get this pin situation. And it's really difficult for white to do anything here because of that pin. So yeah, this is super dangerous for it's lost. If b3, as an example, then the whole diagonal death is neutralized. And in fact, queen f4 check, rook takes c4. There's a loose piece now on d1. Yeah, it's left with a disaster there. Instead of b3, if rook dc1, then actually flick in d2. And if taking here, then just queen, take the rook, queen. Yeah, it just seems all of these variations with knight takes d4 are pretty hopeless here. This situation. If b4, let's say you want to play b4, black then just has a free rein, to go for the attack, and queen g4, queen takes d1. It's hopeless. That wasn't a great try, is it? b4. But anyway, it's just totally hopeless, this situation, because of this configuration, and maybe that's a nice trick for us players over the board or online now to remember. If there's a sort of sniff of a pin, see if you can work backwards against it. It really seems to work very well for black here, this situation. So white, maybe Alireza saw this and just played rook d2, the move he played. A fascinating position, really. Yeah, absolutely fascinating stuff behind the scenes there. And now queen takes h, free check, rook h2, queen f, free check, rook g2, c takes b3. Yeah, black has two minor pieces for a rook. That's check though, king g7, queen d1. Magnus takes on e4, queen e1. Now doesn't mind the exchange of queens. This is clearly better for black. White's in a very, very difficult position. This is a nifty move here, supporting that passed pawn potentially and shielding the g-file potentially with bishop g5 now, which is played here. So this pawn's going on g6. So king takes g6, protects f5, a4, rook d4. It's hopeless for white here. After rook a4, white resigns. So really quite a positional performance here, and even this very, very fast, rapid time control. Magnus shows real domination of the position here with the black pieces. White just seemed to get a passive position from the opening. Yeah, very, very difficult, it seems, to play that position with white, especially with the queen on a1. So pretty instructive stuff. Hope you found it interesting. Okay, and if you want to check out Magnus Carlsen's first ever course, kingscrusher.tv/Magnus course, check that out. It's got great insights from the world champion himself, lots of video footage, lots of interactive exercises, great scoring system, all the chessable features, so make a really fantastic course there. Okay, comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks so much.
Chess is simple. You just make the right moves.